Hi guys, I'm Mark.
I'm Penny.
And we are the Oyster Boys, and today we're going to be reviewing a Kolsch from a brewery called Früh.
The umlaut on there with the pronunciation, yeah. Früh. Named after Peter Joseph Früh from the Cologne area. So, yeah, I mean, do you know much about the Kolsch beers?
I know nothing about a Kolsch beer. I don't even know if I've ever had a Kolsch before.
Well, it's technically, I suppose you could call it an ale, because it is using the top fermenting yeast. So, I mean, the Germans don't really tend to differentiate their beers between ale, that's an ale, this is a lager. Usually this is a top fermenting beer, this is a bottom fermenting beer. And obviously the term lager is more to the storage. So, I mean, basically the story that I've managed to gather about Kolsch started in the area of Cologne where the beers are from. Basically what happened was they were having a bit of trouble with these bottom fermenting beers again. Similar to what we've seen in Pils before they created the Pilsner. So bottom fermented beers become a lot more popular and the local breweries were under threat a bit. So that was during the 17th century. So what they decided to do was basically the brewers in the area make them take an oath. So they couldn't use bottom fermented beer. So it was, you must prepare your beer with top fermenting beer, and now the shall must not use a bottom fermenting beer.
Wow.
And they even tried to stop them selling bottom fermenting beer. I think mainly what happened was because of their climate, they couldn't actually use bottom fermented beer. A lot of them come out bad.
Were the temperatures too high? Too
high. I mean, you've got Bavaria and you've got the sort of mountain areas, so they've got a slightly cooler climate in winter where they could actually make the beers. Changed a bit during the 1750s when they could actually sort of get the beers and cellars and get them to a colder temperature. And that's when the Kolsch come about. So it's top fermenting beers using your ale yeast, but they would actually sort of hybridise the beer and store it in low temperatures like you do with the lager.
Wow, okay.
So I suppose similar to the Keller beer that we tried before, probably a lot more colder, and the beer has to be filtered as well.
Okay.
So we should be getting no cloudiness.
Definitely be able to read a beer Bible through it then.
That's the beer Bible is here to be read for it. So the first date of the Kolsch was Sumner Beer. They were the first to sort of record that name. And then there was about 40 breweries doing it before World War II that were doing the Kolsch beers. After the war, only 3 of them, and one of them being Früh. So it's not actually his first brewery. He actually created Apostle, and he sold it in 1895, retired, and then thought, no, let's get back in the game. 1904, created Früh, named after himself. And like I say, it's one of the 3 that are with us. Not one of the most popular German beers, probably do about 400,000 a year.
Okay.
I mean, you compare that to Paulaner though, and that's, I think it's about 8th. They do about 2.3 million litres, and this is 400,000. Very focused on their area. A lot of the beer is drank in Cologne. It can only be made in Cologne, and I think that's sort of affected them a bit, and they're starting now to look elsewhere because they've realised that the sales are starting to dwindle if you just focus on this one region that drinks the beers. So that's pretty much a full-on history of Früh and Kolsch beer.
I believe that Früh, they've got a couple of locations within Cologne where they've got like restaurants, hotels.
Beer taps, yeah. You can stay, be great, wouldn't it?
Yeah, you can get yourself some pig's knuckle, I think, is one of the traditional meals that they have there.
Oh, very good. So, I feel like, well, I don't know. It'd be, I suppose it's perfect what you'd want in it. Some fatty meat, some pork to go with your beer. Yeah, why not?
Should we get it in the glass and see how it looks?
Yes. So translation for Früh, from what I've found, is early. So I don't know if this is.
Well, I don't know what time we're on now. It's 2 o'clock.
Yeah, I mean 4.8%. So
it's a lovely colour.
Yeah,
looking really good.
This should be a bit more yeasty than Hell's Lager.
The flavour, you mean?
Your flavour, yeah, that you're getting from it. So. It's a lovely colour, isn't it?
That looks great. It's a very...
It's clear as anything.
That is an inviting pint.
I mean, I can see the Oyster Boys through it. I mean, well, there's no point even getting the beer Bible, but I mean, never mind seeing through it. It probably magnifies it so you can read it even better. So,
yeah, we'll just have a little look at that. I'm sure that everyone can read that through there.
Yeah, I mean, that's great. It's like it should be. I mean, you've got the golden colour. You should be able to clearly, you know, heavily filtered.
No, that's a 9.5.
I was going to say.
It's a 9.5. Yeah.
That's taken clarity to a next new level. It's almost like, you know,
bit of a head, but it's going quick, isn't it? It doesn't that doesn't hang around, but it looks great.
Yeah. So, should we go in for
sniff? It's very malt forward, isn't it?
Yeah.
And like you say, a bit of that yeasty.
Yeah, a little bit hot in the end, tiny bit of spiciness, would you say?
Yeah, it smells great though.
Yeah. I mean, it's not blowing me away, but
no, I mean, like I say, it smells good because it smells nice, but it doesn't really turn me on. It doesn't get me hard.
But it's not supposed to. But you know, that's why we have these scores to balance it out. You know, if you compare it to if you were going to have a New England IPA, it's going to be up in the high.
Oh yeah.
Nine, so
I mean, I'd probably give that a 6.4.
Yeah, 6 for me. So, but the most important thing is
I'm thirsty. I've not had a drink in literally minutes.
That's really refreshing, isn't it?
Very, very crisp, considering they've used like an ale yeast or a top fermented yeast as well. It's such a crisp beer, and that must be to do with the cold storage that they're using.
Yeah,
that must
must do. Just drop everything, the yeast and everything out of suspension, and just. Well, they probably lagered it for a long time in the hybrid process. So,
and it's a long taste because it's still changing in my mouth. Because at first it was very crisp and a little bit bitter, but at the end of it, you're really getting those kind of malty notes coming through.
Yeah, you really are,
back of your mouth. Yeah,
not too sweet, but just sort of the biscuity coming up. I've just got this image now of a biscuit appeared in my head when we did the review. As soon as I mentioned biscuity,
as you can tell, there it's very gassy.
Yeah, which is right because it doesn't look it, and the head's obviously down, but. I mean, some of the way they traditionally used to serve the Früh in Cologne is that it's a small 200ml glasses, and they'd come and keep a tally, and they'd mark the beer tabs with a little mark on it, and basically saying how many you've had, and at the end of it they count up. So maybe
is it those sort of like very tall, narrow
glasses? Yeah. Maybe that's because I'm only speculating, but because the head maybe doesn't last long and to keep your beer fresh and cool. I don't know, but it's.
I mean, I think you can tell I'm enjoying it.
Yeah.
It's good. You know my tastes.
It's all for the
you know that I'm a big fan of the lagers and their sort of the crisp beers.
Yeah.
So this one is a good one for me. This is probably. I'm trying to think. Is it? I reckon it's an 8.3.
It's a 7.3. It's a 7.5 for me because obviously I'm more of the wheaty sort of a beer style, but that's really nice. That's really nice. Yeah. And that's a really good, fair score, I think, for something that's like well, not a lager, but a sort of crisp middays beer.
So, how much did this beer cost?
Well, these are ones I picked. So, are you ready to be blown away? It's a Tawley 500ml.
Yeah.
£2.51 from Beers of Europe.
I'd take that.
That is a great price, isn't it?
That is a really good
it's
price.
From an online store. So and 500ml, 4.8. So it's at your
almost what we call a premium lager.
Over
5%. But it tastes great. I mean, you'd probably, if you went out into a pub and got a pint of that, you'd probably be looking at $5. Standard
easily.
Price where we live, £5 for a pint. So, and I wouldn't be annoyed when I paid that at a bar. So £2.50 to have one of these at home. Yeah, you know what? You can get cheaper beer in the supermarket, but this is really, really nice.
Yeah, it is really nice.
This is really nice. I'd probably give it a 7.9.
For me, it's 8.5.
Yeah.
I really think for £2.51 for that, yeah, definitely. For a Tawley, yeah, 100%. So 8.5 for me.
Yeah. And this one is mad sessionable because it's not really strong.
It's dangerously sessionable.
It's dangerously sessionable. Yeah. For me, I mean, I'm going to have to put this as a 9. A 9 out of 10 for sessionability, just because it's just so easy. It's the first sip, I think I nailed half a pint. Yeah, it's a 9. For
me, I think I'm just going to drop it back to that 8.5 away from yours. Just maybe that, just for me, my personal preference, a little too much maltiness towards the end for sessionability, but 8.5 is still a cracking score for sessionability, and that is a tasty beer.
Yeah, it's really good. I suppose that's kind of it for this beer, really.
Yeah.
First review of the day's done.
Yeah.
We've got another 6 or 7 to do after this.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to go all downhill from here, guys. But for now, here's the Oyster Score for this beer. If you click the link in the description down below, you'll be able to see all of the scores for all the beers that we've ever done. Check us out on Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, everywhere else.
And hopefully maybe once we get to about 20 reviews, we might do sort of a little web page where you can go on and keep updated instead of having to watch the beers and see where they are and see where other beers fluctuate. And as the more beers review, maybe we might even categorise it. I don't know. So
who knows? Anyway, that's been a review. Oysters out. Do not regularly exceed 3 to 4 units daily. Okay.